billionaire gave 3 women in his life a limitless credit card, but what they did with it didn't just shock him, it shattered his world. His girlfriend bought yachts and diamonds. His assistant used it to climb higher than ever. And then there was the maid, who spent less than $100. What she did next didn't just reveal her heart, it changed everything he ever thought he knew about love, loyalty, and life itself. Stay with me, because this story will make you question everyone around you, and might even change the way you see the world. Hello family. Welcome to Lifetales by Sally. Please subscribe and like this video to help us reach a wider audience. It means the world to us. Feel free to share this video to friends and loved ones. Also turn on post notifications so you never miss an update. Thank you for your continued engagement. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. Sugarland, Texas did not sleep. Even at dawn, the city breathed quietly, expensively. Glass towers caught the first light of morning like polished mirrors. Highways murmured beneath them, and gated communities rested behind iron gates and trimmed hedges, as if wealth itself required protection from the world. From the top floor of the Harrington residences, the city looked small. Caleb Harrington stood alone at the window, barefoot on Italian marble, a porcelain mug cooling in his hand. The coffee inside had gone untouched. He'd forgotten it was there. Below him, life moved with purpose, cars heading to offices, joggers counting steps, people chasing something they believed mattered. Caleb had already caught everything they were chasing. At 42, he was the founder and CEO of Axiom Grid, a tech infrastructure company that quietly powered smart cities across North America. Traffic systems, security networks, energy optimization. His software lived inside the bones of modern life. He was not flashy. He didn't trend on social media. But governments returned his calls. His name carried weight in rooms most people would never enter. And yet, standing there in the silence of his penthouse, Caleb felt a familiar hollowness settle in his chest. Not sadness. Absence. The kind that came from too many conversations that sounded warm, but felt rehearsed. From laughter that echoed but never lingered. From relationships that thrived in light, but collapsed in shadow. He lifted his gaze to his reflection in the glass. Tailored suit. Clean lines. Controlled posture. A man who looked complete. A man who felt unfinished. A soft knock came from behind. "Sir," a woman's voice said gently. "Your car is ready." Caleb turned. Elena Brooks stood just inside the doorway, hands folded at her waist. Her uniform was neat, her hair pulled back simply. No jewelry. No makeup beyond what practicality required. She never lingered longer than necessary. "Thank you, Elena," he said. She nodded once, eyes lowered, not from fear but respect, and stepped away. As she left, Caleb noticed something he always noticed with her. She never watched him to see how he'd react. Most people did. Caleb's phone vibrated on the marble counter. A message lit the screen. "Vanessa. Morning, baby. Just landed in Milan, can't wait for you to see what I found today." He stared at the message longer than necessary. Vanessa Cole was beautiful in a way that demanded acknowledgement. Tall, sculpted, perpetually styled. Wherever she went, people noticed. Cameras followed. Compliments arrived uninvited. She called herself a lifestyle curator. Caleb knew the truth. She curated proximity to money, to access, to rooms that unlocked more rooms. He typed a response. Deleted it. Slid the phone face down. Another vibration followed almost immediately. This time, it was a calendar reminder, synced by his executive assistant. Rachel Monroe, 7:30 a.m. briefing. Right on time, Rachel appeared at the doorway, tablet in hand, heels clicking softly against the floor. "Good morning, Caleb," she said, already scrolling. "Your call with the Austin investors moved up to 10. The city council wants confirmation on the Houston expansion. And your lunch with." "Cancel it," he said. She paused. "Which one?" "All of it." Rachel looked up, surprised despite years of working with him. "Your entire day?" "Clear my week." Silence stretched between them. "That includes Milan," she said carefully. "Yes." Rachel studied him, calculating. She was exceptionally good at that. Reading rooms, measuring leverage, understanding how proximity translated into power. "May I ask why?" she said. Caleb met her gaze. "Because I'm tired." Rachel nodded slowly, already adjusting plans in her mind. "I'll handle it." As she turned to leave, he added, "Rachel." She stopped. "Do you ever wonder," he asked, "if people would stay if the money disappeared?" Her expression shifted, just slightly. That's a hypothetical question, she replied. And hypotheticals don't build companies. She left. Caleb exhaled. Everyone around him was efficient, capable, impressive. But no one ever answered that question. He retreated into his study. Unlike the rest of the penthouse, this room had been left untouched by designers. No modern art. No minimalist statements. Just shelves lined with books that had been read, not staged. Philosophy. Behavioral psychology. Old novels with cracked spines. On the desk sat a single-framed photograph. Two people stood in it, his parents, outside a modest home that no longer existed. His mother had her arm around his father's waist, smiling like the future wasn't something to fear. He remembered her voice vividly. Choose someone who builds, Caleb. Not someone who shines. Back then, he hadn't understood. Now the words followed him everywhere. He thought of Vanessa's messages. Rachel's calculations. Boardrooms full of people who smiled harder when numbers climbed. And then, uninvited, another memory surfaced. A few months earlier, Elena had been vacuuming the hallway when he'd noticed her shoes. The soles were worn thin. He'd mentioned it casually. You should let me replace those, he'd said. They're barely holding together. She'd stopped, embarrassed. That's kind of you, sir, she replied. But I'll manage. He'd pressed. It's nothing. She'd smiled gently. I know. That's why I want to earn it myself. No explanation. No speech. No performance. Just dignity. Caleb leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. 3 women moved through his life every day. One loved the lifestyle. One loved the position. One asked for nothing. An idea formed, not sharp, not cruel, but heavy. Not a test of loyalty. A test of truth. By noon, Caleb had made the call. Full purchase tracking, he said into the secure line. No interference. No alerts. Just transparency. There was a pause on the other end. May I ask the purpose? His head of security asked. I'm trying to understand something, Caleb replied. Understood, the man said. 3 cards. Yes. Duration. 3 days. The call ended. Caleb opened his desk drawer and removed 3 identical black cards. No logos. No limits. Power reduced to plastic. He placed them side by side on the desk. For the first time in years, his heart beat faster, not with excitement, but apprehension. Because part of him already suspected the answer. And he wasn't sure he was ready to face it. The first card was delivered under the open sky. A private helicopter idled on the rooftop of a luxury hotel in Milan, its blades slicing the morning air into a rhythmic roar. The city below glittered, stone, history, money layered over centuries of ambition. Vanessa Cole stood near the helipad, sunglasses oversized, silk scarf fluttering dramatically behind her. A photographer hovered nearby, pretending to capture the skyline while actually framing her profile. Her phone buzzed. Unknown sender. She frowned and opened the message. Your card has been activated. Almost instantly, a man in a tailored black suit approached, holding a small velvet envelope with both hands, as though it contained something sacred. Ms. Cole, he asked. Yes, she replied, already bored. This was sent for you. From Mr. Harrington. Her boredom evaporated. She opened the envelope. Inside lay a black card, matte, flawless, unmarked. It looked less like a credit card and more like a key. What's the limit? She asked, turning it over. The man smiled professionally. There isn't one. Vanessa laughed. A bright, musical sound that drew attention. No limit? She repeated, as if tasting the words. That's cute. She slipped the card into her purse without another question and turned back toward the helicopter. Let's go, she said. We're late. As the aircraft lifted, her mind raced, not with gratitude, but imagination. Unlimited didn't mean freedom. It meant elevation. The second card was delivered quietly. Back in Sugar Land, Rachel Monroe sat at her desk, posture perfect, eyes moving between 3 screens. Her world was structured, calendars, metrics, projections. Chaos had no place here. When her phone vibrated, she glanced at it automatically. Your card has been activated. She frowned. Seconds later, her office door opened. A courier stepped in, crisp and efficient, handing her a sealed envelope. She waited until he left before opening it. The black card rested inside, heavy even before she touched it. Rachel didn't smile. She leaned back slightly, eyes narrowing, not in suspicion but calculation. Unlimited money was not indulgence. It was leverage. She tapped the card once against her desk, then slid it into her drawer. I see, she murmured, and began planning. The third card nearly never left the house. Elena Brooks stood in the kitchen, slicing vegetables with practiced ease. The mansion was quiet. Caleb had left early without comment. She was cleaning up when the house phone rang. Yes, she answered. There's an envelope addressed to you at the front desk, the voice said. From Mr. Harrington. Elena froze. Are you sure? She asked. Yes, ma'am. Her hands trembled slightly as she dried them and walked toward the entrance. The envelope felt heavier than it should have. Inside was the same black card. She stared at it, confused. Her first thought was that it had been misdelivered. Her second was panic. She hurried to Caleb's study, heart pounding, and knocked softly. No answer. She stepped inside and placed the envelope carefully on his desk, as if afraid it might burn her. I think there's been a mistake, she whispered to the empty room. But when she turned to leave, she noticed a folded note beside the frame of his parents' photograph. Use it. No explanations required. She sank into the chair, card still untouched. Unlimited. The word felt wrong. Elena closed her eyes. By nightfall, the system began recording. Vanessa entered a boutique on Via Monte Napoleon and didn't look at price tags. She bought dresses she wouldn't wear twice. Shoes she already owned in different colors. Jewelry chosen less for beauty than for visibility. When the sales associate hesitated, Vanessa smiled sweetly. Just run it. The card didn't blink. Later, champagne flowed. Strangers became friends. Laughter spilled into stories that would be posted, edited, filtered. She tagged no one. But she made sure the world saw everything. Rachel, meanwhile, booked a suite. Not for pleasure, but meetings. She reserved a private dining room at a members-only club in Houston. Sent discreet invitations. Arranged introductions. She upgraded her wardrobe, not flashy but authoritative. Tailored suits. Subtle watches. Shoes that spoke without shouting. She paid for access. For proximity. For future advantage. Money was a tool. She wielded it well. Elena sat at her small kitchen table that night, the card resting beside her plate. She stared at it like it might judge her. Her phone buzzed. A message from her sister. Mom's prescription went up again. Insurance won't cover it. Elena closed her eyes. She picked up the card. Her hand shook as she typed in the details online. Approved. No questions. She exhaled slowly, relief flooding her chest, not excitement. Just peace. By the second morning, Caleb hadn't checked the reports. He told himself he didn't need to. But the silence felt louder. At noon, he finally opened the dashboard. The numbers were staggering. Vanessa's spending spiked violently. 5-star resorts, private yachts, parties spilling into other parties. Rachel's spending climbed steadily. Investments, networking events, strategic purchases. Then he clicked Elena's profile. He frowned. Her total was barely visible on the graph. He drilled down. Groceries. Rent payments. Medical bills. A donation. Anonymous. Caleb sat forward. Another transaction appeared. Then another. He followed the trail, not of indulgence but intention. A children's shelter in Sugar Land's East District. A neighborhood clinic. A meal service that delivered hot food after midnight. No social posts. No recognition. Just quiet impact. Caleb felt something twist inside him. She didn't know. She didn't know he could see. On the final day, Vanessa called. Baby, she purred through the speaker, music thumping behind her. You should see this place. I think we should buy it. Caleb didn't respond immediately. Did you get my gift? She asked. What gift? He replied. The watch. It's limited edition. I had them engrave your initials. He closed his eyes. She'd bought him something expensive. With his own money. Rachel sent a calendar invite titled, Private Dinner, Strategic Discussion. Elena sent nothing. That night, she walked the East District streets with bags of groceries, handing them out carefully. One man tried to kiss her hand. She stopped him gently. No, she said softly. Just eat. At 9 p.m., all 3 women received the same message. Dinner. 8 p.m. tomorrow. Mandatory. No emojis. No explanations. Vanessa scoffed. Rachel nodded knowingly. Elena felt sick. The dining room of the Harrington residence had been designed for power. A 12-seat walnut table stretched beneath a chandelier of hand-cut crystal. The lighting was precise, warm enough to soften faces, sharp enough to reveal detail. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Sugar Land's night skyline, the city glowing like a constellation laid at Caleb Harrington's feet. Tonight, every chair was filled. Not with 12 people, but with expectation. Caleb stood at the head of the table, hands resting lightly on the polished surface. He wore no jacket, his sleeves rolled up, watch removed. It was a subtle detail, but one that would have unsettled anyone who knew him well. He had stripped away symbols. Across from him sat Vanessa, radiant in a gold dress that shimmered as she moved. Her smile was effortless, practiced, ready. To Caleb's right sat Rachel, composed in a charcoal suit, posture straight, expression attentive but guarded. And near the far end of the table sat Elena, hands folded in her lap, eyes lowered. She wore a simple navy dress, something she already owned. No jewelry. No performance. The plates had not yet been served. Caleb wanted no distractions. "Thank you for coming," he began. Vanessa leaned forward. "You scared me with that message. What's going on?" Rachel waited. Elena said nothing. Caleb reached into his pocket and placed 3 black cards on the table. They landed with a soft, final sound. "You each received one of these," he said. 3 days ago." Vanessa laughed lightly. "Of course. Best surprise you've ever given me." Rachel inclined her head. "An interesting exercise." Elena's breath caught. Caleb studied them carefully, one by one. "Those cards had no spending limits," he continued. "No restrictions. And for 3 days. I watched." The air shifted. Vanessa's smile flickered. "Watched what, exactly?" "Choices," Caleb replied. Rachel's fingers tightened around her napkin. Elena's face drained of color. Caleb turned to Vanessa first. "You spent nearly $2 million, he said calmly. Vanessa blinked. "Is that a problem?" "You chartered yachts. Bought designer pieces. Threw parties with people you didn't know." She shrugged. "That's my world, Caleb. You've always known that." "Did you ever think to ask why I gave you the card?" he asked. She laughed again, but this time it rang hollow. "Because you love me?" Silence followed. Caleb didn't answer. Her smile faded. "You wanted me to enjoy myself," she added quickly. "I did. That's not a crime." "No," Caleb agreed. "It isn't." Relief crossed her face. "But it is revealing." Her eyes narrowed. "Revealing of what?" "That you never once thought beyond yourself." The words landed softly and cut deeply. Vanessa stood abruptly. "So what is this? A test? Some sick experiment?" Caleb didn't raise his voice. "It was a mirror." Her jaw tightened. "I don't need to sit here and be judged." She grabbed her clutch. "If you think money defines me, then maybe you don't know me at all." She walked out. The door closed behind her with a decisive click. Rachel exhaled slowly. "I assume my turn," she said. Caleb nodded. "You spent just over $400,000. Rachel's lips curved faintly. "Efficient. You used the money to build connections. Position yourself. Advance. That's what resources are for," she replied. "Growth. Was any of it for someone else?" he asked. Rachel paused. "I paid for opportunity," she said carefully. "That benefits you as much as me." Caleb studied her. "Did you ever think I wanted something different?" Rachel straightened. "You're a man who values intelligence and foresight. I showed you both." "What you showed me," Caleb said quietly, "is that even when given everything, you still chose yourself." Rachel's expression hardened. "Ambition isn't a flaw." "No," he agreed. "But loyalty without warmth is hollow." She stood, gathering her tablet. "I won't apologize for wanting more." "I wouldn't expect you to," Caleb replied. Rachel left without another word. 2 chairs now empty. Only Elena remained. She sat frozen, eyes wide, hands trembling slightly. Caleb turned to her last. "You spent the least," he said. She swallowed. "I can return it," she whispered. "I didn't mean to do anything wrong." He shook his head. "You didn't." She looked up, confused. "You paid for prescriptions, covered rent, fed people who had nothing." Her eyes filled with tears. I thought if I had the ability to help, I should." "You never bought anything for yourself," he said. Elena shook her head. "It didn't feel like mine." That sentence landed heavier than anything else said that night. Caleb felt something in his chest fracture. Quietly, irreversibly. "Why?" he asked. She hesitated, then answered honestly. "Because if I used it on myself, I'd always wonder who else I could have helped instead." Silence swallowed the room. Caleb pushed his chair back and stood. "You may go," he said gently. Her face fell. "I'm fired." "No," he said. "I just need time." She nodded, stood shakily, and left the room. When the door closed, Caleb remained standing, alone at the head of a table built for 12. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel powerful. He felt exposed. Later that night, Caleb stood outside Elena's door. He had paced the hallway for nearly 10 minutes before knocking. "Come in," her voice said softly. The room was modest. Clean. Personal. No excess. "I didn't mean to upset you," she said quickly. "If you want me to leave." "No," he interrupted. "I came to thank you." She looked up, surprised. "For reminding me," he said, "what money is supposed to do." They talked. Not as employer and employee, but as two people stripped of pretense. He admitted his loneliness. His fear of being chosen only for what he provided. She admitted her fear of being seen as small. Invisible. No promises were made. No boundaries crossed. But something shifted. Something irreversible. The morning light in Sugar Land arrived gently. It slipped through the oak trees lining Sweetwater Boulevard, filtered through Spanish moss and manicured hedges, and finally reached the wide windows of Caleb Harrington's estate. For years, mornings like this had meant strategy calls, market updates, security briefings. A world that woke him with urgency. This morning was different. Caleb stood barefoot in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, brewing coffee himself. No assistants. No schedule. Just the low hum of the machine and the quiet realization that something fundamental had changed. He hadn't slept much. Not from restlessness, but from clarity. Elena arrived at work later than usual that morning. She expected tension. Awkwardness. Perhaps even a quiet dismissal. Instead, she found Caleb at the kitchen island, placing 2 mugs on the counter. "Good morning," he said. She hesitated. "Good morning, sir." He smiled faintly. "Caleb, please." She nodded. "Caleb." They drank in silence. Not uncomfortable. Just unguarded. "I won't pretend last night didn't happen," he said eventually. "But I don't want to rush to label anything either." She appreciated that more than she could say. "I'd like you to stay," he continued. "Not because of what you did, but because of who you are." She swallowed. "I never wanted special treatment." "You won't get it," he replied. "You'll get respect." That was all she'd ever wanted. The transformation of the Harrington estate didn't happen overnight. There were no press releases. No dramatic gestures. Just quiet, deliberate choices. Caleb reduced staff, not out of austerity, but intention. He increased wages. Offered flexible hours. Provided education stipends. He turned and used guest wings into temporary housing for women escaping domestic violence. Anonymous. Protected. When Elena found out, she cried. "I didn't ask for this," she said. "I know," Caleb replied. "That's why it matters." Sugar Land's elite circles noticed the shift before the media did. Caleb stopped attending certain events. Declined familiar faces. Chose smaller rooms. When he did appear, Elena was sometimes beside him. Not dressed to impress. Not silent. Just present. People whispered. "Who is she? An assistant? A charity case?" Caleb ignored them all. At an investor luncheon held at a private art gallery near Town Square, someone finally asked outright. "Caleb," a venture capitalist said smoothly, "you've been unusually selective lately. Any reason?" Caleb glanced at Elena. "She reminds me why I started," he said simply. The room fell quiet, not because they understood, but because they felt something they couldn't price. Elena struggled at first. Not with the attention, but with believing she belonged anywhere near it. Caleb noticed. So he didn't elevate her. He equipped her. He hired mentors, not to mold her into something else, but to sharpen what she already was. She learned finance, leadership, negotiation. She pushed back, questioned assumptions, asked uncomfortable questions. Caleb listened. More than once, he changed course because of her. Their relationship unfolded quietly. No grand confessions. No public labels. Shared dinners. Long conversations. Comfortable silences. One evening, as they sat on the back porch watching a summer storm roll across Sugar Land's horizon, Elena spoke softly. "I'm afraid," she admitted. "Of what?" Caleb asked. "That one day you'll wake up and realize I don't belong in your world." He turned to her. "I've spent my whole life in a world that didn't belong to me." She looked at him, startled. "This," he said, gesturing between them, "is the first place I've ever felt at home." She reached for his hand. That was all it took. Years passed. Not dramatically. Just fully. They married quietly. No spectacle. No headlines. Their daughter was born on a rainy autumn morning. curly-haired, curious, laughing at nothing. The mansion changed. Rugs replaced marble. Books replaced trophies. Laughter replaced echoes. Elena never stopped visiting the orphanage on 6th Street. Now renovated. Bright. Full of life. Caleb often stood back, watching as children ran to her, unconcerned with titles or wealth. They knew her simply as someone who showed up. The Harrington Foundation became known not for its size, but its sincerity. Programs were designed with dignity. Communities consulted, not controlled. Elena insisted on it. Help that humiliates isn't help, she said. Caleb agreed. When asked in an interview years later what changed him, Caleb paused. I gave 3 people the same opportunity, he said. Only one showed me who I was missing. One night, long after their daughter was asleep, Caleb stood outside her bedroom door. He listened as Elena told a story. Not from a book, but from memory. A man once had everything, she said softly, but he didn't know what it was worth. Until he met someone who showed him how to give. Their daughter giggled. Is it true? Yes, Elena whispered. It's the truest story I know. Caleb felt tears sting his eyes. Not from sadness. From belonging. The house in Sugar Land no longer felt like a monument. It felt like a home. Built not with wealth, but with intention. Not with power, but with care. Caleb Harrington had once given his fortune to see what people valued. What he found instead was the one thing money had never bought him. A life. A family. A home. We've come to the end of the story. If this story moved you, like and share it with someone you love and comment below. Subscribe for more true life-inspired stories that remind us what really matters. Because sometimes the greatest riches are found only when we stop trying to own and start learning how to give. Tell us where you are watching from on the comment section. Thanks and remain blessed, family.